There's only one return, okay? And it ain't of the Jedi. It's of the King.
The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, on VHS. Look at that boy. I was gonna say, look at that boy, and he's thick, but this is also a thick boy. Got a couple thick boys here. The dual VHS of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And today we're gonna take a look at this movie. Everything before the movies themselves. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the Ecto Violence channel. My name is Alec. Today, we're talking The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King on VHS. Now, I've previously talked about The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers, so check those videos out if you haven't. And this is 2 tapes. They're printed right on there, you can see that. Sorry, my cats decided The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King was the video that they were going to be in today, apparently, I guess. So let's go ahead and throw this tape in. The first thing we're going to see is a New Line Home Entertainment logo, followed by a wonderfully weird eBuzz New Line ad.
New Line's eBuzz. And sign up for your exclusive eBuzz now. Your direct line to New Line.
Then there's an ad for DVDs, like DVD the format.
DVD. See it. Buy it. Own it. Watch it once. Watch it twice. Spend hours watching extras beyond the movie and enter the world of stars and directors and the magic they make. Build a collection for the family.
Because this came out on DVD and VHS at the same time, presumably, and they were like, why are you buying VHS, dumbass? And there's a quick little bumper promoting a super trailer of all 3 movies at the end. I gotta talk about the first time I watched this movie, which I saw the first one in theaters, saw the second one in theaters, had the DVD of the second one, the VHS of the first, but for whatever reason I was kind of like, by the time the third one came out, which is very weird considering it's a good movie, you know? The first time I saw it, I rented it. And here's what's weird, is I remember renting it with another movie. I guarantee you will not guess what fucking movie I rented with this. Pretty sure I rented them both on DVD. I was staying with my mom in Iowa at my grandmother's house. I rented Return of the King and Mike Myers in The Cat in the Hat. Holy shit, what a mismatch. I blocked watching that movie out of my head. But this was my first time watching Return of the King, and I had a good experience then. I usually spent those trips in the basement watching TV. This Smeagol intro here in this movie is pretty awesome. It's very Cain and Abel vibes, and I'm pretty sure that's, you know, intentional, at least with the filmmaking. But I remember watching this for the first time and being, like, disturbed, you know what I mean? Like, being unsettled, like I was watching a horror movie. And I might have been in 6th, 7th grade, I don't know, by this point. The underwater shots, now that I know that they weren't actually filmed underwater, all look very weird to me. They still look good, but they just look weird. And the slow transformation from Smeagol into Gollum, all the practical effects there, this is underrated right here. There is some very horrifying versions of Gollum that we could have gotten that we didn't. Gollum's pretty scary in his own, but like, man, some of these versions were way worse. So then we're back with Sam and Frodo. Gollum's hanging out, you know, the usual shenanigans. There's a lot of that in this movie. Aragorn, Legolas, Gandalf, etc., at Isengard. That's a fun scene. They find the eye. Gollum talks to himself. Sam overhears, of course. The amount of times, like, Sam tries to strangle him is almost like Homer and Bart. And every time I talk about these movies, I have to talk about the cinematography, at least a little bit. I just think this movie is majestic as fuck. It's beautiful. Pippin in the eye, like, some of this is not my favorite. My favorite's Two Towers for sure. I love the rebuilding of the sword scene. That's awesome. Again, Hugo Weaving, excellent. And I love how Gandalf basically just tells Pippin eventually, just don't say anything at all.
To give him news of his beloved son's death would be most unwise. And to not mention Frodo, the ring, and say nothing of Aragorn either. In fact, it's better if you don't speak at all about him too.
The gate in this awesome surge into the sky.
Somebody get me the Ghostbusters.
Pippin lights the beacons that signal all the way to Rohan.
Gun knuckles for 8! And Rohan will answer.
Faramir and company versus Nazgul and orcs. That's a fun scene. Honestly, the battle scenes are all fun. I don't have any specific notes about them. They're just really fun. And Faramir talking to the king.
You wish now that our places had been exchanged, that I had died and Boromir had lived.
Yes. I wish that.
Well, that's a fucked up scene. This guy gets what's coming, though. Elrond telling Aragorn of basically this ghost army in the mountains that he needs to go summon.
Somebody get me the Ghostbusters.
And this is where he gives them the sword, and it's like, yes, this is the scene. And I gotta say, this ghost army rules. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things about this movie. Also, Gandalf knocking out the king. Gandalf's a boss, man. And the thing, it seems like Gandalf gets increasingly just tired of this shit as these movies go on. I really like that about his character. Like, by the time he's in this movie, he's like, I don't have time for this shit. I'm knocking out the king. I'm doing what needs to be done. I'm fucking Gandalf. I really wish it had, like, a insert tape 2 here. You put tape 2 in, and it starts at this battle. And it starts intercutting between this and what's going on with Frodo and everybody. Frodo is totally banged up by this spider, dude. He gets destroyed. The king ends up burning instead of Faramir, which rules. Awesome scene again. Gandalf, thank you. Just how everybody keeps showing up and essentially saying, no, fuck you, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it, basically. Rohan, and then Aragorn with the ghost army. And one of my favorite quotes from the movie.
No man can kill me.
I am no man.
Legolas on the elephant. The reason this is relevant is because there's a fun little Wilhelm scream there. And I always forget how hilarious and deranged this ending is, where Frodo's like totally not going to throw the ring in, gets his finger bit off by Gollum, and then is like battling him on the edge. It's ridiculous.
And then right after the Sam Frodo suckfest, right before the credits roll, Sam fucking flat out bricks in Frodo's mouth.
So let's talk about the positives of Return of the King. Obviously the cast, we've mentioned this in the previous positives because it's just excellent. The music, once again, flawless. The effects. These are things I feel like I've mentioned in the other videos, but so it's hard to like retread here. But speaking of them all as a trilogy, right? Like, I may have grown to like this more than the original Star Wars trilogy at this point. It's true. I rewatched this multiple times a year. I couldn't tell you the last time I rewatched the Star Wars trilogy. You know the one. And maybe it's just because I got all Star Wars'd out. I mean, I haven't watched the new Lord of the Rings series on Amazon Prime, although I've been thinking about it upon this recent revisit. I've heard they aren't bad. But what can I do, you know? Maybe it's just because I grew up watching those movies from a much younger age. I've seen them way more times still. But the Lord of the Rings is specifically just these 3 movies. And, you know, I didn't review, obviously, the extended versions. It's not the versions I have on VHS. I did find out somewhat recently that the extended versions were released on VHS and DVD when they were released. So that's good to know. And unfortunately, I have never watched these all in one day before. I think that's something I want to do at some point. Just watch all 3. Just sit on my ass all day and watch Lord of the Rings. And as far as negatives go, come on. I don't have any negatives for Return of the King, really. I mean, it's my third favorite. It's my, honestly, yeah, it's my least favorite of this trilogy. But, like, that's just, like, barely, you know what I mean? Still love it. And before I rate this movie, I do want to remind you, you can now join this channel as a member, or on Patreon, whichever you prefer. There's exclusive videos, behind-the-scene videos, pictures, early access to videos as soon as they finish editing, stuff like that. I think I will rate this a 4.5 out of 5 hearts, because I loved it. I still love it. I think Two Towers I gave a full 5, and Fellowship I also gave a 4.5. And if you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.
Chicks dig Lord of the Rings, Randall.